Let my honesty spill out through the pages.
You're listening to Escaping the Rat Race. I'm your host, Amy Leo, a singer-songwriter and mental health educator. And our show is all about questioning the status quo and pushing the boundaries into what's possible for human beings and not probable. So tune in and get ready to escape the rat race, not only the monotonous 9-to-5 work grind, but also that incessant internal mental chatter that prevents most of us humans from experiencing more joy, peace, clarity, and freedom. This is our inaugural show with Contact Talk Radio, and it's called Escaping the Rat Race. So, you know that pit in your stomach that you're living with most of the time, that anxiety, the stress, the sleepless nights, the perpetual exhaustion, maybe you even have headaches. That doesn't have to be your way of living. And that's what this show is really about. Using a combination of science, philosophy, spiritual principles, we really like to include everything that's available to us and really create an open-minded platform where we can explore a new way of living for human beings, one that is focusing on the possibilities of being human instead of the probabilities, the mundane, that heaviness 9-to-5 grind. So what you can expect with us on this show is we interview experts from, again, a variety of fields: neuroscience, coaching, health, education. We also interview singer-songwriters, musicians, actors. Again, really a full breadth of people that are doing amazing things all over the world. You can also expect from us something called Amy's Real Stories, and each member of my team is going to introduce themselves and what they do, and they're going to share one of their favorite Amy's Real Stories. We actually have over 35 episodes that we've already released independently. And finally, another thing that you can expect from us is that we share new music and also sometimes meditation tracks. So there is an artistic component to every show as well. And a few of us are singer-songwriters on the call, so that was really near and dear to us to create. So again, my name is Amy Leo. I was a social worker for a number of years in New York City, working with kids and teens out of the psychiatric hospitals there. And what I found was, even though I loved my job and the clients, was that people really weren't getting better. People would only experience maybe temporary instances of relief, but it was not long lasting. And, you know, it's funny how life goes. I stepped away from that position and came across a totally new paradigm for mental health, for well-being, for productivity. And it was based on what's fundamental for human beings. So it was very different than anything else I'd learned. It wasn't based on theories or opinions or advice. And that's one thing we also will continue to explore. So with that, I want to get pretty real here and share that I haven't always had this view of life or this level of confidence. And I want to now switch gears a little and share an original track that I wrote and recorded a few years back when I really believed that something was wrong with me, when it felt extremely heavy being in social situations, when there was a lot of judgment that I was doing about myself, and I was really struggling to live in joy and acceptance and love. Here is my original song called The New Girl.
In such a delicate place, staring my future in the face, hearing each bitter thing that they say, it's hard to erase. Living a little at a time, feeling the cold in their eyes, hoping for someone, for anyone to say, but they all turn away. And here I am making excuses, saying I'm sorry, they still don't include me. 'Cause when you're the new girl, you're giving up rest. These things have happened more than once. I've been traveling all my life. Names may be different, don't recognize the faces, but the story's the same. We'll put together every day. Later the night takes that way. Left to wonder what I did or didn't say. Pain's worse than by the blame. And here I am making excuses, saying I'm sorry. They still don't include me. 'Cause when you're the new girl, you're giving a fresh start. It ain't what it seems each day that it brings. You stay the new girl. You're desperately wanting a sense of belonging, a sense of belonging. Oh, you'll stay the new girl.
So I'm going to now introduce my colleague and dear friend of mine, Megan Macaron. She is a fitness coach and health coach, but she does it from a very holistic view and focuses also on this love that exists that's ready to burst out with her clients as well. So Megan, I would love if you could introduce yourself, share what you do, why you're involved with this project, and maybe your favorite Amy's Real story.
Hi, yes, thank you. I'm so glad to be here. Okay, so my name is Megan Macaron, and I'm extremely passionate about teaching women to love themselves more and about fitness, nutrition, and all-around wellness. Currently, I work as a personal trainer and binge eating coach, and I help women conquer their out-of-control thoughts, feelings, and urges around their body and food. A little bit about my background when it comes to eating is that around age 19, I started a downward spiral with my health. I had been in college for a year and a half by then and gained about 25 pounds, and I was extremely unhappy with my body. I started working out like a fiend and counting calories and cutting them really low, like maybe 1,200 calories a day. And I would restrict and deprive myself and lose weight only to gain it back, consistently yo-yoing my weight. I tried things like diet pills, fad diets, like every fad diet from the 3-day diet to something called the bean diet that Amy knows all about.
Yeah, the bean diet is really unpleasant with its side effects. I'm just saying that, guys. Try it at your own risk.
Oh, the bean diet. That was a fun one. And then I started to binge eat, which is not a laughing matter, but the bean diet really is a laughing matter. I hid the binge eating from a lot of people. I don't even know if Amy realized I was binge eating until I told her I had been binge eating, because it's something that you don't want people to know about. You're pretty ashamed about usually. And it's occurring because you really aren't happy with your body, even if your body to other people looks amazing. And so, I would continue to lose weight and have mood swings or gain weight and have low self-esteem. And I felt tired all the time. And I was literally addicted to overeating food and didn't have a clue as to how to stop myself. And I tried self-help books, therapy, counseling. I tried a lot of things and nothing was really helping me. And when Amy introduced me to the 3 principles, it was around that time that I was also in school to become a holistic health coach. And what I came to learn through the 3 principles was that my thoughts around food and my body, and the fact that I was focusing so much on those thoughts that I had created, these were the main reasons I was having difficulty with my weight and binge eating and having higher confidence. And while I was in the course to become certified as a health coach, which was the same time as learning these 3 principles, I realized that I was focusing too much as food for weight loss and not enough as food for health. So my thoughts around food and my focus were all in the wrong place. And I was taking my thoughts way too seriously. I found through the three principles, through Amy and Jean, that I didn't have to believe in my thoughts or live them, that they were just thoughts and they can come and go and they don't have to act on them ever if I don't want to. Trying to find the perfect meal plan and counting calories, not listening to my body, thinking I had to have 6 small meals a day. I was only acting on these thoughts because I thought that I had to act on them. And after listening and learning and being a part of the three principles community, I realized now that my thoughts were creating my reality, and my mentality around food could easily change once I realized that they're just thoughts and I don't have to act on them. And once I did that, my binge eating started to go away. So that's my own personal story.
First off, I really want to thank you, Megan, for sharing that. I have known Megan for almost a decade, and Megan's transformation, not only with food, but also her ability to voice herself, voice her authenticity, I guess is a better way to say that, has really gone through the roof. You know, she used to kind of hold her own wisdom in a little bit more. And now I'm really just excited that we have this platform for you to share your wisdom, Megan, truly. And, you know, for listeners, I'm sure you can relate to some piece of what Megan was saying, especially the underlying theme of, did you feel how heavy and restricted and limited her life was when she was just innocently doing what she thought was best, but it was coming from the advice of other people, perhaps, or information sources. So our show is totally different from that. Our show is not about giving people advice, because the truth is information is not what changes people. So we, again, really here focus on that it factor. And you heard Megan mention something called the three principles. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. We will get some clarity about that, but that's certainly a pathway to experiencing and seeing for yourself that it factor when you start talking about fundamentals of human experience, principles of experience, instead of other, again, people's opinions, cultural norms, information articles and studies. Although those things can be helpful, again, that's not where change lies. And we know that. I mean, we know that that's true, or else, like exactly what Megan's saying, you know, we wouldn't be smoking, right? If we listened to advice, we wouldn't smoke as a population, we wouldn't overeat, you know, but again, so it's so exciting to explore what's under the surface. I also want to make another clarification for our listeners. A lot of times when people hear us talk about thought, they think they know what we're talking about, right? They think that we're talking about positive thinking. And I want to be clear that we are not. You know, I know that you as a listener can't but help try to relate what we're talking about to something you've already experienced, but we really are having a truly innovative, evolutionary conversation on our show. So it's not positive thinking. We're not talking about CBT or NLP. And I just wanted to make that clarification. So awesome, Meg. Thank you. And now I get to bring on our Kick Booty podcast producer. I met this gentleman, oh my goodness. Kelly, when did we meet? 2015?
April 24th, I believe it was.
Oh, he knows the date. April 24th, out in California, because as I said, there are a couple singer-songwriters, and Kelly and I are both singer-songwriters. So it's been just a pleasure having him on this project, and to see his own transformation and ease as he's building a business, doing what he loves. And I'm just going to let him kind of take the show now, Kelly. So if you'd love to introduce yourself to the folks and a little bit about your story, that'd be awesome.
Certainly, yes. My name is Kelly Munsrud, and I've been studying music for over 30 years, and also technology and business for over 20 years. And along the course of life here, I've decided to put those two combination of skills together into my own business, Kelly Munsrud Music and Technology. And it's been a real treat. Where I came from in the day-to-day job was 15 years in an office in that technology and business world. And as much as I made and as much as I put into that job, I really wasn't totally happy, and it kept culminating into actual misery, and to a point of where I actually had a problem, which I'll speak of later in one of my favorite real stories. But so what I do is give students the ability to learn guitar, for instance, or bass, or how to better sing or songwrite. We do recording, and I do a lot of visual production too that I didn't expect coming. I just followed my intuition is what I did. And it wasn't long after I had met you, Amy, that I had started this business and opened it in August of 2015 and have been open now for over a year. I think that the biggest thing I've found as an entrepreneur starting a business is, especially relating to the three principles, is just being able to trust my intuition and the dream and the things that I loved in life all along, even growing up, are now coming out, and people see that. I'm excited about because I love what I do. I certainly enjoyed what I did before, but not to the extent of this, because this is right to my core. And I tried to plan it all out. I actually did. I figured, well, I've got to get a business plan and I got to figure out everything I'm going to do. But really, even some of the things that I did plan, the things that have actually happened and unfolded aren't at all like that. So the busy mind would have kept me out of this probably my whole life. Thankfully, last year, Amy introduced the three principles to me in a rather ordinary, simple way. It was just a book. When I met her, she had a book that she was reading, and I finally decided to ask what she was reading, and it was Somebody Should Have Told Us by Jack Prensky. And so one thing led to another, and before I knew it, Amy was getting an apprenticeship, and wow, lots of things are happening. Speaking of doing that thing that I love so much, working with audio, here I am, a podcast producer now. This is just fantastic. So all this happiness that I have really shines. And it's funny because I keep getting from customers that as word grows as to what I'm doing, others will come and say, I really want my Billy Bob to have the same experience that I heard my daughter talking about her son having over there. What is it that you do? They talk about, they come home all excited and everything. And I don't know, I just share my knowledge and skills, and it kind of seems to work like that.
Yeah, Kelly, I think you're bringing up some really important things in your own story. You know, one is definitely this piece that I can relate to of planning. And I used to be extremely type A, and it's not that I'm not productive now. But how I used to view, how I used to plan and be type A, it was like very unhelpful planning, and planning that actually, exactly like what you said, Kelly, it wasn't relevant to what actually was going on in my life and what continued to happen. You know, the bridge of life is built plank by plank when we get on the bridge. It isn't this defined route to success like perhaps we thought. So I really appreciate you sharing that piece, and the beauty of leaning into your intuition and your individual wisdom is key. It's paramount to creating a thriving business that really fuels your wallet and your soul. And that's something we talk about a lot on this show as well. Not to mention that word of mouth referral is a great way to grow business too, but we'll get into all of that on separate shows. But Kelly, I know you mentioned a little bit that you had a real story to share. So I would love to open the mic back up, or give the mic back over to you if you can share that with our listeners.
Yes. My real story is about a man who enrolled in a non-12-step rehabilitation program and has had a complete transformation, even though he and his family believed his heroin addiction would likely find him dead with a needle in his arm. I'll just say that again. The man enrolls in a non-12-step rehabilitation program and has a complete transformation. He said that 10 treatment centers had failed him, most of them being 12-step programs. And they are great for some, but Alex found that it wasn't for him until he went to Gulf Breeze Recovery, which we can provide information for. Only halfway through his program, Alex realized that he no longer had a drug problem. It no longer made sense to use drugs anymore. He was guided toward his own innate wisdom revealing the truth that he no longer had a drug problem, he had a thinking problem. Alex says that his addiction was something I did and not who I am. Traditional models might say that Alex has a disease and a problem that he would have to cope with for the rest of his life. And when people ask Alex how non-traditional therapy, educating people about the 3 principles in this case, works, where others fail, Alex cited his experiences, and not word for word, but this is kind of what I took from it, is that the first option is your traditional 12-step programs. Basically, you're considered an addict for life. Of course, you do the steps, whatever is needed to cope with a sickness that you've been diagnosed with and labeled for the rest of your life. Or option 2 is you realize that you're not an alcoholic for life. You don't have an incurable disease. It's just a course that you went through in your life that has passed. And you're not broken, and you weren't all along. You just thought you were. So all in all, this relates to me because I had an alcohol problem. And for me, there was no way a 12-step program was going to work. And I can see the complete understanding in this is because we're putting people through programs that have been pre-set for almost a one program fits all, when really we should be looking to shine a light for them to see their own wisdom that can bring them out of whatever addiction it is. So I can't encourage enough to give a holistic approach or non-traditional therapy a chance if a 12-step program hasn't worked for you. Again, that doesn't mean that a 12-step program doesn't work and doesn't find success.
That's so true, Kelly. I'm so glad that you've brought this aspect up, especially, to prepare listeners that what we're saying flies in the face of convention. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to show by real life case stories that what we think is unlikely or improbable is actually very likely, especially when people get more awareness of how their human system works. And I can tell that, maybe some listeners think, well, this is way too simple. How could learning about human experience help something like heroin addiction or alcoholism or binge eating, like Meg had said? But this is what we are, this is what we're here to show and to demonstrate. And I really appreciate that you also said that, we also don't believe that there is one right way for everyone, including the 3 principles. You've heard now Kelly and Meg say the 3 principles. It's not one thing. There's actually a saying that I think of Meg's dad, actually. You don't know what water drop made the flower bloom. And that's really true. But what we are creating here is a supportive environment where you can see things for yourself. So this show is really about you, the listener, and not about us. And I wanted to make that clarification too. So thank you very much for giving us not only hope, Kelly, with your stories, but practical hope. So I invite listeners to stick on with us throughout the series and see what occurs for them the more that they listen in, especially with an open mind.
When was the last time you laughed out loud, connected with an old friend, or did something you loved to do, even at your work life? Do you find yourself just getting through each day instead of enjoying each day? Here at Escaping the Rat Race, we teach busy professionals and creative entrepreneurs like you how to create a lifestyle that fuels your wallet and your soul. Our clients learn how to creatively solve challenges like lack of time, money, clarity, or energy, resulting in an optimal work-life balance, increased productivity, and sustainable happiness. This may seem far-fetched, but here's the kicker. Instead of prescribing more techniques or rituals for you to fit into your already busy schedule, we do what only a handful of consultants and coaches around the world are doing, zooming out and focusing on the science of the human experience first, teaching what is fundamental for true sustainable change with an easy-to-understand scientific model of how the human mind works. This crucial aspect is missing from many programs and is the reason why information-only or advice-only approaches often fall flat. Many people will tell you that a life of joy and passion as a working person is unrealistic. Our Escaping the Rat Race team is living proof that this is not true. So here's our question for you. Are you clear on how to achieve more freedom, fulfillment, and joy from the inside out? Do you want to learn? To celebrate the new year, we are offering 30-minute First Step to Freedom diagnostic calls, where together we identify the first action step for overcoming your most pressing problem so you can start living free of the rat race that very day. To take your first step, send an email to ratrace@amyleo.com. Again, that email address is ratrace@amyleo.com, ratrace@amyleo.com. Space is limited to the first 25 people who say, yes, I want to take the first step toward more freedom. Our Escaping the Rat Race team would like to say Happy New Year and tune in next week when we speak with Dr. Dickon Bettinger for a kinder, more effective route to lasting change that may even impact the I did it in your New Year's resolution.
And with that, we have our final member of the team. Chris is our Instagram dude. He's our social media dude. And thank goodness he's on the team because I am so horrible with all things social media. And Chris also has a really unique story as well. And it's just an awesome asset to this team. So I'm going to, again, give the mic to you, Chris.
I'd like to thank you for that very generous introduction, Amy. My name is Chris Vibert, and I met Amy through a freelancing website called Upwork. And she was looking for someone to promote a trip that she was holding, which was going to basically introduce the 3 principles to people in a mental health retreat in Costa Rica. And I actually learned a lot about myself when I was working for Amy, just because I struggled through a lot of the same problems that Amy was talking about and that people had experienced, because my mind, it's always going throughout my life. I've always struggled with addiction issues, whether it's food, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs. It always seemed like I was unable to develop an unshakable resilience, even when I was going through a challenging time. I was finding that whenever something happened to me, whether it was a breakup, whether I'd lost my job, anything like that, I would immediately resort to either binge eating. I've been up to 225 pounds. I'm currently 185 pounds. So binge eating isn't really something that, when I was working with Amy, I was actually experiencing some negative thoughts just because at one point people weren't necessarily responding to our various marketing tactics. And I took that personally. That's been a problem throughout my life, that I take things way too personally. That has been something that has just been a catalyst for all my problems. And I just didn't realize that. It wasn't until Amy introduced me to a book called Invisible Power: Insight Principles at Work. There's a few different authors. There's Ken Manning, Robin Charbit, and Sandra Crott. And that kind of led me to a breakthrough in thinking, in that it not only helped me in my personal life, it also helped me in my business life. Not being rattled by life's challenges, being confident that I will find new perspectives and solutions, that really helped me. Just because finding peace of mind and quiet when there's no time to take a break, my mind is always going through things a mile a minute. Learning to reconnect to the flow of life rather than swimming upstream That's been a very valuable lesson for me. And just learning about the deeper workings of my mind, just so I can access this innate wisdom and intuition that we all have, but don't necessarily realize that we have inside us. It's also helped me in dealing with so-called difficult people. I mean, finding deeper and healthier relationships and finding the good in everyone and everything has been another valuable lesson that I've taken away from it. And I think that might be it. I mean, I can keep going, but
Chris, I really appreciate you sharing in that way. I'm so taken aback and struck by how each of you has really stepped into your authenticity and has really shared wisdom and showed up in such an awesome way on this inaugural show. And you're each bringing up really pertinent points for human experiences that we all go through. And that piece I was really touched about that you said, Chris, was about resilience and, questioning whether it was there. And that's a huge piece of the work that we do, is really for people to see for themselves that the resilience is always there. Now, I know it doesn't feel like that sometimes, but the metaphor is like, the sun's always there. So the sun would be our resilience, right? Okay, I know it's a really basic metaphor, but here it is. So the sun is our resilience, and that can only ever be covered up by the clouds of personal thinking. But clouds dissipate, and that's what we find working with people with all different kinds of life backgrounds, different diagnoses. It doesn't matter where someone came from when it comes to this, because you hear stories of resilience of kids that grew up in horrible, abusive situations that then live a life of success and productivity and love, and that hasn't been hampered. So we really start to see, as we investigate, that we are all really living life from the inside out. This is why the wise have said for years, look within. Well, this conversation is about introducing people to looking in that direction again in a practical way, because we could say, well, what does that mean? That's easier said than done. But when you start to see the simple fundamentals at work, naturally old thinking starts to shift. This is very different than traditional coaching or therapy. And I did want to kind of point that out as well. Chris, do you have anything else you wanted to share? Any story that we've shared maybe, or an interview that we've done that really resonated with you?
Right. So I wanted to share the story of Jim Abbott. He's currently working as a motivational speaker, but for 11 seasons, he was a pitcher in the major leagues. What is so unique about him is that he was able to accomplish, he was pretty much able to get to the heights of the major leagues. He was in the running for the Cy Young Award winner, which is the most prestigious award in baseball for a pitcher. He came third in 1991 in Cy Young voting, which is pretty amazing because he only has one hand. He is missing his right hand. And it's not only a story about Jim Abbott, but it's also a story about his father and how his father instilled in him this mental resilience in which he didn't view his disability as a limitation, even though he was born with no right hand. For all too many, that would be an excuse, a reason to quit, or not even to start. I mean, it's a handicap, sure. It's a disability, but that doesn't say that you're weak and unable to perform to the same level as normal kids. His father instilled in him this mental resilience that enabled him to get to the height of his profession. And it's a profession that, 1% of 1% of people actually get to. He refused to let a handicap define his son, or to let his son allow it to define him. Mike's resilience and instilling in his son that what he may have lacked in physical abilities manifested strengths in other areas. For example, he was able to leverage and build his creativity with his father's mentorship. He developed a pitching technique and workflow where he would lay the left-handed glove on his right hand, so basically on his stump. And after throwing a pitch, he would seamlessly transfer the glove to the left hand to play defense. And that's pretty unique. Nobody ever actually has done that in major leagues before or since then. Currently, he's working as a motivational speaker. So, I mean, that's a perfect job opportunity for him. And he actually works for the Department of Labor to encourage businesses to hire people with disabilities. So, I mean, even in his post-major league life, he's doing great things.
I love that story, Chris, because it shows even when you have, again, a physical symptom or disability, or however we want to frame that, that there is that inner resilience. There is that creative insight that's available to everyone. And that's exactly what Jim and his father did. I mean, that's amazing. It reminds me actually when I used to play basketball, there was a gal as well with one arm, and she was like awesome. She was the point guard. She was like on the best team of the league. You know, we were in 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. So it's fantastic. So that's why I love sharing this. I mean, all the stories we've shared have had different circumstances going on. The root of transformation is the same process for everybody. And I think that's what's so amazing about it. So awesome, Chris. Thanks. That's a good one. Okay, well, I guess it would be my turn to share. I have so many favorite stories because, of course, a lot of them I pick up in my travels or things like that. But I also have one that's more related to biology as well, Chris, because to me, that's really astonishing. So mine is girl has half of her brain removed and goes on to live a normal life. I love this one. So the gal's name was Cameron Mott. She was diagnosed with a rare condition that led to frequent and violent seizures. And this condition, doctors told her parents that this will lead to paralysis and death, no question. So here we go. Here's that thing about possibility versus probability. So that's what they thought. They basically did a drastic surgery to try to save her life. So the doctors removed half of her brain. And astonishingly, this is what happened. The half of her brain that was still intact rewired itself. So it took over all of the functions that would have been in the other hemisphere. So I think this is awesome. I mean, this is amazing. And then if we take a direct quote from this source, it said, Cameron has no problems understanding language, music, math, stories. She's good in school and even participates in sports. And the source of that book, we'll put all of these sources in the show notes. But this is a great book called The Brain, The Story of You, and it's by neuroscientist David Eagleman. In closing today, I know we've talked a lot about thinking, and this may not be a new idea for people, but there's something, again, that happens when people start to understand this, not just at an intellectual level, but when they viscerally start to understand it. Because with understanding, then you start to take different actions effortlessly. And you have different feeling states because your thinking is always related to your feeling state. Okay. Thought is the cause of feeling. For centuries, we've had this wrong. I know this flies in the face of everything that you may have been told, but don't discount this yet. Explore it for yourself. Don't take our word for this. Explore it for yourself. It becomes so elusive because it's this thing that us human beings have called consciousness. Consciousness makes it look like our thinking is circumstance, right? It makes sense. Think about it for your biology. If you have a thought about something, consciousness works so it brings it to your 5 senses. So it absolutely feels real in your body. But again, this is a misunderstanding of where experience, where feeling comes from. So again, it doesn't matter if you agree with this, disagree. I invite you to just play with this in your own life and to, again, tune into the show and just see what you think. See what you think when you hear more about other people's experiences that are surpassing and transcending incredibly difficult circumstances and odds. Again, there's an it factor at work here. So what I want to do before we leave today is I just want to play a few clips of my favorite episodes to date. I do enjoy them all, but one that I really enjoyed that kind of really demonstrates, again, this inside out paradigm of physical health and mental health is that there's a gal we interviewed called Sydney DeChamp. And man, you have got to tune into this full episode because this woman, if there was something life could have thrown at her, I mean, it has been thrown at her. So we'll just tune into this clip so Cindy can say that in her own words.
I lost my left kidney in that car accident, survived that, and a year and a half later, the doctors that did the surgery where I lost my kidney called me up and told me that they were back testing blood transfusions for AIDS. And I, of course, being the person I was at that time, knew for sure that it could never, touch me. I was a straight girl, and AIDS was at that point in time, a very gay man's disease. And on the morning of my 19th birthday, the doctors called me back up again and said, "You have 2 years to live. You have AIDS. Get your life in order." And so I tried to commit suicide, deciding that I didn't want my family to see me die a slow and painful death. And as you can tell, because I'm here, I didn't succeed in committing suicide. I guess that's a good thing for me and for those that I've been allowed to meet and touch since then. And I have then given birth to 2 beautiful, wonderful children who amaze me every day. I've been married to my husband for 22 and a half years. It was 3 years ago that I also found out that I had stage 4B non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And at the time that I found that out, I was in full-blown AIDS and was being told that I had the worst kind of cancer or stage of cancer that you could have. And the doctors just looked at me and they said, "Look, we don't know that we can do anything for you. You've got 6 months to live." And I looked at the doctor and I said, "You do your part. You fight your side of the battle. I'll take the medications. I'll do whatever I have to do. Let me and my support system do our end of the thing. And we will fight this, because that is who we are." And so I pulled my prayer team, my positive energy team, whatever you want to call them, together. And 3 chemo treatments in, they decided to do the PET scan again, and all the cancer was gone. And 6 months after them telling me I had stage 4B cancer, I was told I was in remission of the cancer. And on that same day, I was told that my HIV had also gone into remission. I have learned that in asking for help, not only do I make myself stronger, but I also make those that I ask the help from, I make them and allow them to grow and become stronger as well. And so that is my gift. And it's been one of the hardest things I've ever learned, was to ask for help, to reach out and say, I need your time, or I need your attention, or I need just to be in your space because you give me something that I can't give myself right now. And that's what we as a human race, I think, need to learn to do more and better, is to understand that I might be the one that feels like I'm in need, but sometimes it's the other person that's in just as much need and just needs someone to say, I need you, and reach out and do that.
And just one more clip I really wanted to share is that we interviewed a couple, Isa and Karan of Safari Lounge, the Flame of the Forest. It's a safari lounge, rather. Their story is incredible. So we're going to play a clip from that. And again, you'll have to tune into the full episode to see what happens.
Karan has been a bit of a wild child, still is a wild child. And his mom thought a bit of yoga might do good to him. So she sent him to the same yoga institute, and we happened to be in the same.
The idea was to do yoga, but then I met her, so I got super distracted, and it didn't happen.
He made me bunk class all the time, and then he started to tell me about birds and things. And to me, I love the birds, but every bird kind of was a bird. So he had to make a lot of effort to make me understand that there are so many different kind of birds,
which I yet have to make.
which he has to make. So he finally told me to come and see another national park where he was working in Bandhavgarh, that was. And he was working in a very, very beautiful lodge, and the manager was extremely kind to give us one of their suites for 2 weeks. I got really spoiled from bottom to top.
So the manager saved the day.
Yeah, the manager saved.
Yes.
We gave her a rosy picture and then we put her to work.
Yeah. I thought this is really an amazing lifestyle to do something like this, to live with nature and to share this experience with especially people coming from the city who are just used to good internet speed and a cab next door and all the things you feel you need to have and actually don't need to have. So we thought we give it a try and make this dream come true.
Take the jump.
Take the jump. And managed to buy a bit of land. We first got married, of course, because in India it's quite difficult to live together without being married. And obviously for my parents, that wasn't the easiest thing to imagine their daughter running off to the Indian jungle thinking of
They already
making-
thought India was mad enough.
Yeah.
And then they said, why, even if India, they first said 200 and odd countries in the world. And if so many, then why India? And if India, then why all the way to the jungles of India?
And imagining making a beautiful lodge, luxurious and attracting people from all over the world to come to the jungle. I mean, who does that? And then getting married.
Till they came first.
Yeah, till they came first. So, and then getting married somewhere in the jungle. But then, yes, so we did it. And to make it worse, we got the land, and then there was this big crash in the stock market, and we literally, in India, and we literally lost all the money we had. So we stood there with probably, was it $2,000?
Something like $2,000 in the bank and a piece of land with nothing on it.
With nothing on it.
And we're looking at each other thinking, that's a good start.
That's a good start. Yeah. So that's where we started.
What a great example of, again, leaning into intuition and following your own life's path, regardless of what your culture says you should do, regardless of what your family says you should do. And I know I'm hearing some folks that I'm sure that inner voice is saying, well, that's easy to say, but it's hard to go against, the norm or the grain. And what we're going to do in this show is we're really going to show you the path to that for yourself. So you're welcome to join us on that path. We cordially invite you to continue this exploration, because I know I can speak for myself that my own learning grows every day, and it's the same, I'm sure, for everyone on my team. So just to kind of put a nice bookend on today's show, there's one thing that, has been a theme, is that the people that you surround yourself, that can, of course, either build you up or feel like it's breaking you down. And this is a supportive, all-inclusive environment. And we do honor everyone's opinion. This isn't about making people wrong. But again, what we like to draw people back to is the facts. Before we officially shut down the show for today, I want to take this time to share an extremely touching rendition of a song that I think really hits home the point that we just made, and it's called You've Got a Friend, and it's sung by my colleague Lise Dandenel. I'm going to unmute everyone so they can say goodbye.
When you're down,
Goodbye from Megan.
in trouble,
Goodbye from Chris. It was a pleasure.
Goodbye, everybody.
and you
It's Kelly.
need a
And it's not goodbye, it's until next time when you listen to
There you
us.
go. Yeah.
Exactly.
and nothing,
Until next time, keep rocking.
nothing is going right. Close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your dark
just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you've gotta do is call, and I'll be there. Yes, I will. You got a friend, yeah. You got a friend. If the sky above you should turn dark and full of clouds, and that old north wind should begin to blow, ooh, keep your head together and call my name out loud, and soon you will hear me knocking upon your door. Oh, you just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I will come running to see you again. Oh, winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you've gotta do is call, and I will be there for you. Oh, ain't it good to know that you got a friend when people can be so cold? They'll hurt you and desert you and take your soul if you let them. Oh, but don't you let them. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I will come running to see you again. Don't you know if it's winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you gotta do is call, 'cause I will be there. Yes, I